Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Commissioner McClure, and I just found out late 2 minutes ago. Bear with me. Congratulations. As they say in my office, it'll be fine. So I want to welcome everybody, and we'll call the meeting to order. And do we have a quorum? Yes. If you have any conflict of interest, you should say that at this time. Any of the declarations on the agenda items by the chair. So let's take a vote on the minutes from the meeting of October the 28th, 2024. I have a motion to approve those minutes. So moved. Second. Okay. Action passes. Any discussion? So any public comment? Hearing none. We're going to go into a summary of the 2023-24 audit report and review of Southwestern Pennsylvania Corporation 990 return of the organization's exempt income tax. And we have Tim Morgus, Michelle Hope of Mayor Digital. Okay.
Yes. We distributed a PowerPoint. I'm not sure if you have a copy of it or not, but it's up on the screen. We went through the detailed reports with management and we put together the star points just to try to keep things moving along. If you have any questions as we go along, feel free to interrupt us. We'll be happy to talk about the ones, but otherwise, we're going to try to stay on it in 60 kind of pace. So the first slide is just an introductory slide. The next slide talks about the audit deliverables, what we did. And as your auditor, one report is the communication that is charged with governance, which requires us to communicate those charged with governance to the board. What we did as auditors and what we found as auditors, so it's generally accepted auditing standards. And because you have 7,750,000 uniform guidance, which is a federal requirement. So the single audit financial report are the financial statements and the reports related to spending of the federal money, and then the 990 auditing as well. So I will mention that. So any other questions on the deliverables or any questions? I'll go to the next slide. Communication of those charts was covering the summary. Like I mentioned, we did the audit reports generally accepted auditing standards, governmental auditing standards, which is the yellow book if you've ever heard that term, the uniform guidance, which is the federal circular that talks about requirements to spend your federal money. Significant accounting policies, significant accounting policies listed in your footnotes. There were no changes to your significant accounting policies. There was one GASB that applied to you. You didn't adopt it because it did not apply to you. So accounting estimates, all financial statements have estimates. We take a look at your estimates and we think that they're raising the disclosures. Don't have any sensitive disclosures, aren't disclosures, so we want to point out to you. All of your disclosures are pretty straightforward. The difficulties encountered performing our audit, we were able to get everything from the time we did and had complete cooperation. We made audit adjustments as a part of your audit engagement, which was a good thing because you don't want, as a board, the auditors to have to come and fix your financial statements for them to be right. So you can rely on your financial statements throughout the year. Next slide. No disagreements with management. Reporting matters. We obtain a management representation letter, which is a letter that simply says that management agrees with the financial statements and has told us everything to the best of their knowledge and beliefs. No consultations with other accountants that we noted. We made no arrangements prior to our retention that we would compete in a certain way. Other matters, you do have a few supplementary reports that are mentioned and the communication efforts. So next slide. So audit the financial statements, our audit report is an modified audit page, which is the type of thing you want to receive as an audit client. It's the highest level of assurance we can give So it's certainly one that we kind of see. I think Michelle's going to take over from here. So should
Thanks, Tim. I already covered the first bullet point. You also have within that document, management discussion and analysis. Would be a plain language version of your numbers. So that's a good place to start. On your fund statements, the revenues were up $7.5 million or 67%. And it's related to grant activity, which the expenditures are the same way. As you expend the money, you record that revenue. So your expenses were up $7.9 million or 66.3%. When we get to the statements, you'll see these a little better. You do have negative general fund balance of $569,000 with an overall negative fund balance of $114,000. So let's go on to the next page, which gets into kind of the statement presentation. This first and second slide are your government-wide statements or your full accrual statements. It's a little hard to see, at least from this far away, but I have paper coming in front of me. For the year end, you had total assets of almost $20.4 million. The bulk of that increase really is in the accounts receivable line, and that's related to your spending of the Build Back Better money. You had some accounts payable as well as receivables at year end related to those. If you go on to the next statement there you go. The accounts payable there is what I was talking about, Build Back Better money. You had about $1.4 million in payables at year end related to that. And the highlighted, that's a new section there, really. That's the $750,000 loan that you all took out, reduced training payments that you made during the year.
that loan was for what, Michelle?
That loan was for a portion of your build-out costs
Related to this ground space.
related to the space. That's correct. So we go on to the next statement. The next couple of pages are your fund statements. These are the modified accrual statements. This top section displays the revenues. Again, if you kind of see year over year, you're up mainly in the federal grants arena. As you spend that money, you'll have revenues related to that money. On the next page, and this is really where we can start talking about the negative fund balance. Capital expenditures there, the $844,000, that comprises your lease for the furniture of this space, as well as an additional $270,000 of build-out costs that you incurred. New for this year, that debt service section, that's showing payments for your leases, split out between principal and interest, as well as your payments for the loan. Then you get down into your other financing sources. You do then see the loan proceeds of the $750,000 that came in, and then the leases under there. Again, it's the new leases under this accounting and modified accrual. You show some income from the leases, and a corresponding expense that's in that zero. At this point, please start paying for that. Down near the bottom of the screen there, your net changes in fund balance. If you go all the way over to the right side of the page, you see that negative $750,000. If you were here last year, that is because you spent $750,000 in build-out costs, but you had not yet received your loan. The loan does offset that $750,000. Then you get into the new year, and you have to start repaying your loan. So that's going to be a negative impact on your fund balance, as well as the additional $270,000 of build-out costs and the lease payments for this, the furniture that you have in this location. So you're going to continue to see a net deficit there and until you have funding to cover those costs.
Typically, the way SPC has always ran from financial perspective is you receive grants, you take that grant and you spend it on projects. So it's not like SPC's ever had the some. Generally, your revenues are equal to your expenses. So that doesn't allow for much cushion. You have something like this, you just haven't identified a funding source that will pay for those costs, which are due to you compared to past years.
So any questions on the numbers portion before we move on? Okay, hearing that, if we could go to the next slide. So just quickly, your footnotes, just two footnotes. There's always an adopted and pending accounting standards footnote. which is in footnote 2. As to mention, you did adopt one standard, but it did not have impact to you all. And there's just a few others out there that will come effective over the next years that likely will have very little impact on you as well. You do have supplementary information. That's your CPA. That's the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. That's what your single audit is based off of. For this year, you did have 3 programs that were required to be tested. Your FTA program, your ARC revolving loan fund, and EDA, the COVID portion of the revolving loan fund, as well as the Build Back Better money. Reporting under uniform guidance was a clean report. We found that we had no findings to report. So that's a good thing for your single audit. Go ahead on to the next page. Next slide, thank you. Your 990 that relates to appropriation that has been extended to May 15th, 2095. But as soon as you all are wrapped up here, we'll get that submitted following the advance of that date. There's some additional schedules that you're required to attach to the core form. Schedule A, it shows the IRS that you are a supporting org of the commission. Schedule B is a listing of contributors. You do receive a public disclosure copy, which takes away the names and addresses of those contributions. And Schedule C for political activity, D, J, R, and O. D is like the footnotes to your 990, has a lot of good information there. J is a compensation over $50,000 per individual, is required to be disclosed in a little more detail. And Schedule R related work, you do disclose your relationship with the commission. And Schedule O is miscellaneous. Anything that doesn't fit in the core part of the form goes back to Schedule O. We might give a little more detail or explain a little bit more about a question. So those are, and it's our presentation. Are there any other questions? Any questions?
It's just one other commentary is the federal audit that we did. We tested 3 programs. Typically, we only test 1, maybe 2. This year, we had to test 3 based upon the criteria. So it was a pretty thorough look at all of your, or majority of your programs. So that's good news. We didn't find anything in that book. And also just the rehash the conversation that we had with management of, you have to identify a funding source for this rent as it goes over time. And you have to be able to stay on top of that, because if you get deeper involved, then it's going to be very real big cost.
Sure.
Because you're counting, Tim, in there like so the rent plus whatever's owed on the loan, correct?
Yes.
It's all being rolled into that.
And I think there's a funding source for the rent itself. You can bound it.
Well, you've been
The interest piece would be like, sure. Okay.
All right, thank you. And now fantastic, what's that? But I do want to thank Tim and Michelle with Meyer Duzel for that report. Appreciate that.
I guess everything's going to be okay.
That's right. Just like I said, everything's going to be all right. And what times? Okay. So now, glad Pat questions, but I'm just a little bit to me. Jim, on to item 5. That's
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologize for being late. You all those being county commissioners, they were throwing curveballs on any given day, and I had a few curveballs, a couple change ups and sliders thrown at me today. So I'm really a little bit behind schedule. So I appreciate Betsy taking over, and thank you very much. Then agenda item number 5, Jen Liptash going to give our fiscal report. We have our fiscal finance director is off sick today. So then,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I was told that I have a good lawn, so I hope that I come today. So I will say even Seaport Harris gets sick, which is Alicia. She's never really sick. And today she unfortunately is not here, but she asked me to do this presentation for her. So I'm happy to do it, even though I don't know that I'll be able to do it as great as she can. I just wanted to give the general financial report, which you can see on the screen. As you can see at this point, which is October 31st, we usually do it in our own period of time. Remember, our budget begins on July 1st. So as of October 31st, you'll see we're about 21% of budget. Our budget in total is about 23 million, just under. It's $22.9 million. And we've expended about 4.8 of that at this time. So we're pretty much on track related to that level of expenditures for our overall budget. And as you know, our primary source of funding will come from UPWP, which you're going to see in the next meeting with the approval of that plan, which is a little over $7 million. Then we have other dollars from various federal and state programs that we use to combine in addition to our local member contribution. I did want to note, again, I've been here since June of this year, and I'm very happy to be here and appreciate the welcome that I've gotten from the commissioners and the staff. But noting what the auditors have mentioned related to the building and the cost and the loan and the internal loan and the furniture, and I believe there was a strategic plan done prior to as well. A lot of that has eaten into our reserves. So we have to, at this point, begin to build that back. I know many of you are dealing with a similar situation within your own counties, right? Trying to fill financial holes. So just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. Try to sit down with the financing team, which is fantastic. They're new to these positions as well. So we're all working together along with the executive director to build a plan to try to get us back into not deficit spending, into balanced budget spending. So with that, if there are any questions related to the budget we have for this year, I'd be happy to answer them, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Jen? Hearing I don't believe we need to a motion to accept the fiscal report. Going to move along to need a motion to go into executive session to for discussion on resolution 10-24 to discuss a loan.
I make some motion.
Looking for a second? Second. Thanks, Nick. Got a motion and second. All right.
So wait, sure.
We're out of executive session, so we're going to take action on agenda item 6 to ratification of resolution 10-24 to approve the loan for Willie LLC based on the recommendation from the loan committee.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Have a second?
I'll make a second.
Betsy, thank you. Leslie and Betsy, any other discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we're gonna give about 30 seconds, let some folks move back into the room, and then we're gonna move on to an update and discussion on the SBC bylaws. All right, Dusty, I'm going to hand this over to you for update discussion on the SBC bylaws. I know it's something that we've been mulling over most of the year. I know Dusty, Rich, Jen, and I have met previously. We also brought in some of the executive officers as well for review about a week ago to go over this. And I believe we have something that we can push forward here for adoption, but I'll let Dusty give everyone a high-level view of some of the changes to the corporate as it relates to the corporation.
Right, so thank you, Commissioner Fabian. We're going to start with the summary, and I think we need to move to part 2 there you are. So this is the summary. Can you hear me? I'm glad you're doing it. Okay. Thank you very much. So as you all know, that SPC Corporation was really established a long time ago when there was a building that was owned by SPC. And the SPC Corporation is the nonprofit that accepts loans, and it does all of the business things for the commission. Because it owned the building, it had something called a sole member, which we decided wasn't needed anymore because you don't need a sole member managing all the business of the corporation. So basically what we did is we did a lot of general cleanup and changes and these bylaws had not been looked at since 2010. So a long time ago. So we updated the language to reflect that there would be multiple members of the corporation rather than a sole member. We also updated notice provisions because I think that the way that notice was being given is not how people get notice today. So we updated language entitling each commissioner to a vote. And so that each commissioner that is entitled to vote under the articles is similarly entitled to be a member of the corporation. We removed provisions that made specify that the sole member had a lot more power than you all as members. So the other thing we did is that we clarified that commission members that make up the board are elected from the commissioners that are appointed by each of your counties or local governments. And we clarified that all regular meetings shall be held in accordance with notice and with your bylaws. And we have added if you go through, you know that there's a president, a vice president, a chairman, and we have added a second vice chairman of the board as an elected officer. And we updated officers and assistant officers' terms to be 2 years instead of being voted on every year. So that's just a summary of it. The notice provisions say now you can get notice by email and mail. We changed the quorum provisions to be comprised of officers rather than directors. And it's a lot of just cleaning up language. This is an important change. We said that action can be taken at a formal meeting if you have to have one in an emergency situation, and then it can be voted on and confirmed at a meeting after that. Each of the commissioners that are on the board are entitled to a vote. And we removed anything relating to the sole member. So as far as what are considered directors, it's the 11 members of the commission. So one member from each of the public bodies, plus the president of the corporation, who should be an ex officio member of the board. So there's an annual organizational meeting that is held every year in addition to regular meetings, and we clarified that and where it could be and how you could get notice about it. And, basically additional board reports can be sent out to the board at the discretion of the chairman. I said we added the vice chairman and the 2 terms. Those are basically the 2-year term.
Can you back up the screen one moment? Okay, so the first bullet, 11 members of the commission, each elected from among the commissioners appointed by each of the commission members?
So in other words, it's just basically your own commission chooses who's going to be a member,
Okay,
right?
right, yes. Okay, thanks.
Right.
I wasn't sure if that meant like the whole commission was.
No.
Okay.
No, it did not mean that. Any other questions about the changes to the corporation bylaws? A lot of cleaning up.
I think one change, and you'll see that on agenda item 9, is that we added the second vice chair of the corporation. Technically, Betsy really wasn't recognized in the corporation like she is in the commission. So because of the due, it passed here, right, we have to pass this here. And then the next step, as you see on agenda item A, will, creating that, because we've accepted the bylaws, hopefully, that the second vice chair, looking to move Betsy there, so there's some consistency between the corporation and the commission. And does everybody understand Leslie's question? So I'll use Lawrence County since Dan's sitting across from me. Your three commissioners will determine who's on this executive committee as it relates to the corporation. So between you, Dan, and Trish, obviously you're here, but that's how we get these members here for the 10 counties in the city of Pittsburgh. Any questions for Dusty on the bylaws? Saved a lot of trees.
I tried. Thank you.
All right, so
So it's a board. Does it eliminate the executive committee then, basically?
This board is the,
We are-
essentially the executive committee. Okay.
all right, any other questions for Dusty? Not hearing any, I'm looking for a motion on agenda item 8 to approve resolution 11-24 to update the SP bylaws as it relates to the corporation board of directors and executive committee.
Yeah. I don't, there is that question Leslie asked, is there time needed to post this? And nothing that I saw said that. I mean, I think everybody received these.
Sometimes when you amend bylaws, you have to do a reading and you can't do it
Right.
immediately like that. You have to wait.
This went out, what, December 9th or something like that?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I asked for a motion and a second to look for that motion.
I'll make that.
Thank you, Dan. Looking for a second. Nick, thank you. Any other questions? Not hearing any. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, moving on to agenda item 9. Looking for a resolution, action on resolution 12-24 to approve Commissioner McClure to serve as the second vice chair of the corporation. Thank you, Leslie. Do I have a second? Second. Nick, thank you. Any questions? You can. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We have one abstention. That's, yes.
All right, welcome, Vice Chair. You did a good job kicking off. And that was a task. That's really why I was late. To handle that. Rich winked that back. You did a great job, so you passed. All right, other business. So earlier this year in February, we that was considered our annual meeting. So there's really no need to have an annual meeting this year. Dusty, do you want to add some little more
Yeah.
clarification to that for us?
That's right. So while we didn't discuss it, we advertised it as our annual meeting in February. So we actually did have our annual meeting then, and officers were elected, and we reorganized. The only officer that wasn't elected is our second vice chair, which we just did. So there is no need to have another annual meeting. We essentially had it, even though we didn't have. It said it on the notice, but we didn't discuss it.
So, and Dusty, correct me if I'm wrong, we had discussed a couple weeks ago that we're going to try to get back on track with having our annual meeting at the end of the year in 2025, correct?
Right, yeah, we're gonna try to, if you look back at the past history, the annual organization meeting was really done in December so that you were all ready to go in February. That, we got sort of off track last year and it didn't happen. And that's because of the change with Vince leaving and everything. So we'll get back on track now.
So this slate of officers will serve out 2025. Something we discussed and to be looking for as it relates to participation from your county. We'll be looking, I mean, past history, Vince would move up into chairman, Betsy would move up into vice. We talked about, I thought it made sense at the time, and I'm not sure we put this in the bylaws, and correct me if I'm wrong, I have young timers, but, I thought it made sense to have the outgoing chairman. Like in my case, it would be my planning director to chair the nominating committee, because Armstrong's heading out as chairman. He would lead that discussion on nominations of that new secretary position coming in.
Yeah, we didn't put that specifically in the bylaws, but it does say in the bylaws that you can appoint a nominating chair and a nominating committee. So
So I think
essentially, that's what you would do.
that's what I'm shying towards, is having my planning director to chair that nominating committee. Obviously, all your counties in the city of Pittsburgh will have participation in that, in selecting a nominee to fill that vacancy for that secretary position. Just to throw that out there. All right, next meeting, as a reminder, will be February 24th, 2025. And other than that, does anybody have anything to discuss in the executive committee that we did not hit on the agenda? All right, on hearing, looking for a motion to adjourn. Sarah and Betsy, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried.